Welcome to my channel. My name is Carolyn and I'm a graduate student and I'm really excited to share everything I made in 2024. Right now I have a bunch of piles under my desk. Honestly, have been sitting here for a few days, too many, and I need to just film this video so I can put everything away. A couple of these projects have aspects that are either unfinished or need fixing, so I'll also talk about that. Okay, the first thing I'm going to show you is one of two objects, so I'll just grab both of them. It's hard to reach everything. It's my painted frames that I made. These both show photos that I took on my recent trip to Japan and Korea. So this one, I was inspired by stained glass at the Studio Ghibli Museum, so I wanted to make a little forest spirit painted frame. Some of them got a little wonky and I tried to fix them with Sharpie, so I started on this side painting them. This does not look like a forest spirit. It looks cursed, it looks haunted, it looks maybe like a dead forest spirit, but does not look like a forest spirit. But a lot of the other ones I really captured the forest spirit vibes. Some of them are midway, like this one's not quite there, this one's not quite there, this one also looks cursed. The other ones are like, this looks like a forest spirit. This one also looks like a forest spirit. And this one is probably my favorite one. So I like how this turned out. Other than the couple cursed ones, I may go back and fix these, but the frame that I'm a lot more happy with is my pigeon frame. So I took this outside of Cafe Onion in Seoul, and I'm really happy with how it looks, because like, it's a pigeon. Staying on the subject of my trip to Japan and Korea, I did a travel journal, which I'm including because I did some drawings in it and general collaging throughout. This is my little vest that I made. So this was my first complete knit project that I made, which is a garment. I did not follow a pattern. And so what I did is I thrifted this yarn, and it's a very chunky knit compared to what I have been currently knitting. And I did not know how to do color work when I was doing this. So instead I opted to needle felt this frog, and I crocheted the frog onto the vest, did some embroidery detail work on it, and then I also used a much thinner yarn and I crocheted around the edge to get this type of effect. Now I'm really happy with how this turned out, but there were a couple issues that I had when I was finishing it off, just because I didn't understand how to finish crochet or knit things. So the first issue I had is I knotted my ends. You can kind of see it over here. I knotted my ends and then just cut them instead of weaving them in. And that is an issue because my sweater literally started unraveling at one point, and then I realized, oh, I kind of messed up when I did that. The other thing I'm not a huge fan of with this is I love the needle felting and how it looks, but it's very thick. But I really like how this turned out a lot, and I actually went to this one event, I wore this, and someone complimented me on this, and it was a very proud moment. This next object I'm emptying out has stuff in it. It has my passport, and right now when I'm filming this, it's January. When I last used it, it was October, and I went on my trip, and you can tell from my ticket from coming back from Seoul and my Korean butt nap. But I decided before my trip I would make a little wallet for myself, which turned out really cute. This was an extensive project for me. I became obsessed with Miffy right before my trip, so I decided to make this a Studio Ghibli Miffy themed pouch. So first I made the structure of the pouch, and then I made some Ghibli Miffy accessories to go with it. So I hand embroidered this pouch. I say pouch. I did this woven texture, which was really fun. And then I made these polymer clay figures. So there's a little Totoro, there's a little duck guy, and then a little Miffy, which unfortunately got a little messed up and has some like hair on it. But in general, I'm really happy with how this turned out. And then also on the inside, I finished it off with this different type of fabric, and it served me well on my trip. The next thing I have is an annual holiday card. Every year for the last 4 or so years, basically since I adopted my first cat, I've been making a holiday card. Here you can see my partner, me, and the cats, and then a few pictures from the year. So this was really fun to make. Maybe I'll insert my time lapse in here somewhere from Procreate. I think it's the best holiday card that I've made so far. Another thing I made, which I'm honestly not sure if I made it in the last year, the little weird frog that's needle felted that used to have another eye. The other eye fell off at some point. I have no idea where it is. So if I start using this again, then I'm going to make a new eye for my little one-eyed frog, or maybe I'll make it an eye patch. I don't know. An eye patch would be fun. But basically I wanted a simple thing to hold my cards that I could easily slip things in and out of. I stopped using it because I found sometimes it was a little too easy for my cards to come out, but maybe I'll come back to this. But for now, the one-eyed frog is retired. I made this with Aspen from Made in the Moments pattern. I did alter the pattern a little bit because I was using a smaller yarn. I had some fun incorporating a tiny bit of color work, just the slightest amount down here. I ended up not following Aspen's instructions to only pick up, I think it was every 4th stitch around the edge, so then it was too loose. So I attempted to fix that by putting this embroidery floss around the edge, which now I just think is a really cute detail. I can just throw on this balaclava, and it's really cute. Is my hair okay? Okay, next here I have 2 objects that I finished, one of which broke. I decided to make this little capybara tiny polymer clay head. Basically in the middle of this is paper, I think, and then I covered the paper in polymer clay so I didn't have to use a crazy amount. I didn't paint this at all, I just used brown and black polymer clay, and then I glued this mounting piece on the back so it kind of looks better at this angle. This again is an attempt to make these forest spirits, but in polymer clay form. And again, I did not quite capture the cuteness. I didn't capture the cuteness at all. These look weird, I don't like them. This one broke, and honestly, this broke sitting in my pile underneath my desk, so I probably stepped on it at some point. This does not work well as a ring stand. It can only hold a couple of rings up here. So I honestly may throw this out. I have another video which is going through my goals for 2025 crafting, and one thing I mentioned is that this last year I had a realization that I can make my own custom embroidered patches, and it's really not that hard. I made a Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle patch, and then I also made this egg patch, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. This is my Uniqlo bag. It's very basic, except for the fact that I hid a little tear with my egg patch. I also mentioned this in my bingo card video because I had a really fun time just playing around with the cabling on this beanie. Yeah, the cabling is just so fun. I did a little color work, so I was using this color changing yarn. I decided to knit with 2 different parts of it, so then both of the gradients are changing at the same time, and it made a really cool effect. And then if you flip it inside out, it has a different vibe entirely. And this is the inside because it has all of my mistakes. So you can probably see it a little bit better over here. This here is my first attempt at doing any kind of cabling. Oh yeah, so I actually started the beanie here and then I knit down. At this point I decided to do some cabling, which is what happens here. So this is my very first attempt at cabling. And then also in this first part, I kept on messing up my 2x2 rib. So I have so many little mistakes. And then afterwards, I did this cabling. I decided to do some color work up here, but then I realized this is too tight to be the brim of the hat. So then I had to add on to the end. So this was just like a little adventure making a big tube for a hat. So that is the beanie. And here I am wearing it. It's very warm. I think it's the warmest beanie in this household because it's wool. Theme of balaclavas. I'm in the middle of finishing up a second balaclava for my friend. Right now it's in my yarn bag. This used to be my Nana's. It's really cute. I really like it. But this is the balaclava of my friend's dreams. So I wanted to go with something that has a lot of really bright colors. This was also inspired by the Made in the Moment pattern, but I made a couple other changes in this one because I wanted to make sure that I did not interrupt these motifs when I dropped stitches to make the hood part up here. So because of that, I ended up making this portion way too shallow, so then I had to make the ribbing around it extra thick. And then also I did a lot of color work on this, which was really fun to do. It took a while. Right now I'm trying to make a scarf to go along with it. On my needles right now is this scarf. So the idea is that these 2 pieces will go together. So I'm just making this really big, or at least relatively long scarf. Here, I'll try it on. It could be longer, but the plan is I'm going to get this portion thick enough, probably double or maybe triple the thickness. And then I'm going to pick up the stitches on the edge. So I'll pick up these stitches here, and then I'll add this motif to the edge of the scarf. So these 2 pieces match each other. I'm really excited to see how that turns out. But right now, I'm just doing a lot of knitting and purling. I was getting bored with it, so I decided to switch between knitting and purling to make this texture because I really like the eclectic look of this, and I thought it would add to it. But I really should get back to finishing this up because my friend needs it. She's cold. She needs these warm items. Also, because this is a cotton yarn, because my friend has a wool allergy, I'm planning on adding in a fleece lining. I actually picked out the fleece lining with my friend. It has Bigfoot on it, but we wanted the chaotic vibe for this balaclava. And then also, this project is like 90% finished, is a fleece coat, which is really hard to see. Like I could hide myself with it right now, but it's this fun shark pattern, which I'll show you. I'll insert a clip of me trying it on, but there's a couple adjustments I need to make. The first is I need to clean up some of the seams. So you can see I ended up having some trouble with my sewing machine when I was finishing this up. So a couple seams that are just very, very rough. I need to unpick this, and there's a few other areas like when I attached this collar that just looked awful. It also does not have a button, and the sleeves are not the same length right now. I would also like to add another set of pockets because I find that the pockets are just a little too far away for me to reach when I'm wearing it comfortably, and I really like sticking my hands inside of a coat when I'm wearing it. But I'm really happy in general with how this has turned out. If it's not a very windy day, I can wear this, and I have worn it. The first time I wore it out, I went to this really cute store in Beacon, New York called Little King, and I got a compliment on it, and it was the best moment ever. I'm really excited to add the button and fix those mistakes so I can continue to wear this and love it. Because basically, I made this coat because I wanted a big fleece jacket, but I wasn't seeing what I wanted online. I really didn't look very hard, but I decided just to make it. And I did. Another thing I made is my very first color work item that I made, which is just basically a cat pattern. I don't have this with me right now. It's at my desk on campus, but I really enjoy it. It brings me a lot of joy. I started knitting it on, I think, the flight to Hawaii, because I went to a conference in Hawaii, and then I went to Tokyo and Seoul on that trip that I mentioned earlier. So this color work traveled with me around the world, basically. I honestly did not make very much progress on that trip because I didn't understand the concept of color dominance, which you'll understand when you see the beginning of this piece, because the contrast between the first two colors I chose was very, very weak. And I ended up changing that as I moved on to the rest of the project. It gave me, I'll show the back of it, but I got a lot of practice with managing my floats because there are longer floats on this colorwork project. And by the end, I was able to even out my tension in a great way. And now it's hanging by my desk and I really like it. Another thing that I made is this little incense holder, which has been getting a lot of use. You can see how dirty and covered in incense it is. It's a little Totoro that's holding an incense stick, and even when it's done burning, it's just holding this little incense stick. And this was my first ever polymer clay creation. I was not able to recapture the magic of this Totoro when I was making my other polymer clay projects, but I just had so much fun making this. Just the idea of my Totoro is holding my incense stick. Very, very cute. Oh, and then I did a combination of polymer clay work and then painting on this. So you can see here, I think it was an accident that this ended up so gray, but it kind of works because it hides incense dust. I painted on top of the white and blue polymer clay that I used, so it gave it a really fun effect. Next, this is a project in progress too. I'm making this for my friend that I'm also giving the balaclava to. Yeah, I'll add a picture of the reference also, so you can see how much work needs to be done. But I'm basically having fun just doing a more freeform embroidery where I don't have a pattern to go off of. I think this is the last thing I have physically to show you, but I'm making a wine tote. And by making, I mean, like 8 months ago, I got 90% done with making this wine tote after I had a wine night with a friend, and I have not finished it. So there's a couple places where it needs to be fixed. I also need some kind of strap, but it looks really cute. So I'm gonna finish this. But I made 3 pairs of shorts. And by 3 pairs of shorts, I mean I made 2 pairs of shorts and started a 3rd pair. And I need to go back and fix the first 2 pairs of shorts and finish the 3rd pair of shorts. So maybe I'll put a clip, if I feel inspired, I'll put a clip of me holding these pairs of shorts and the pattern that I used. They're a work in progress. And lastly, there's a bunch of miscellaneous things that I worked on. I made some pop-up cards, which I don't have any pictures of. Maybe I can get pictures of those. I made this design for a sweatshirt. I took a cool transmission electron microscope image that I wanted to shout out. Came up with merch ideas for my department that I'm in for my grad program. This last year, I really just went wild and made a bunch of crafty items as inspiration struck. And this is what I ended up doing. This next year, I really want to keep up with the creative spirit and make a lot more of really cool things. And I'm really excited to document that on this channel. So it would really mean a lot if you would subscribe or like this video. Comment. If you left a comment, it would make my day at this point. I've never gotten a comment before. Whoa. If you've been hearing any rustling, it's my little cat Sophie. She's very nervous. She gets Prozac every day, and she's been roaming around the room while I've been filming. So say goodbye to me and say goodbye to little Sophie. Bye, Sophie. Bye, YouTube.